Welcome to the Imperfect Dads Podcast. This is your host, Devin. We believe dads care deeply about their family and kids, but they don't always have a space to discuss what their life looks like. Our podcast is a space for dads to discuss the ups and downs of fatherhood and how they feel like they're holding it together or how they're not. Thank you for joining us for this episode. This podcast is part of the Never a Face Network. Make sure to follow them on Instagram or go to the website neverafacenetwork.com. On this episode, we have an author and retired U.S. Air Force Special Missions aviator, Anthony Dyer. We reflected on his daughter getting older, realizing how fast time goes, that every cliche has truth to it, his life after retirement, therapy, getting sober, and learning to share his story. Anthony recently wrote a book called Moonchild. It's about his experience in the military and retiring and returning to civilian life. He discusses how he got sober and faced his demons before imploding his life. Anthony told me on this call that he wrote this book because he knew the journey of figuring out your identity after military service can be difficult, and he wanted people to know they aren't alone in that struggle. And also, you can find his book on Amazon. Once again, the name of the book is Moonchild by Anthony Dyer. Just like one more thing.
Dad, just start the episode.
Oh, my bad. Hey, Anthony, welcome to an episode of The Imperfect Dads. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Devin. It's a pleasure and honor to be here, bro.
Yeah, man. Normally, first question I ask is pretty simple, and it's just how many kids you got, ages, all that good stuff.
Yeah, no problem. So I have one daughter named Sullivan. She's 9 years old, man. It's a blessing to say the least, man. Best thing that ever happened to me.
That's awesome. How long until my oldest just turned 10, and her being a decade is to me is still kind of like, holy crap, you've been around for a decade. I've been a dad for a decade. How does it feel to have a kid that's 9 and about to enter into like double digits in the next year?
Yeah, it's pretty eye-opening to how fast time goes by, man. Honestly, like November she'll be 10, so she's growing. The other day I thought about it, man. I remember she used to fit in almost one hand, and now she's almost up to my shoulder, man. So it's honestly an honor and pleasure just to see her grow up,
Mm-hmm. One thing I hate about parenting is how many of the cliches are accurate, because it is like, oh, it goes by fast. And you're like, oh, I don't want that to be true. And then you look up and you're like, my kid's almost my height. My kid's up to my shoulder, and you're like, oh no, yeah. This goes by real fast. Oh crap. How'd we get here already?
Yeah. I was telling someone the other day, man, like a younger guy was like, kids don't really, as an aviator, we're checklist oriented driven, right? And,
yes.
I was like, kids don't really come with one, I was like, people are going to give you advice from everywhere, in-laws, you name it. I was like, but you have to basically just figure out what works for you and go with it,
Yes. If someone gives me parenting advice, I mostly just remember, okay, if I encounter this, they might be a resource. But before I had kids, it was like, oh, here's what your kid is definitely going to do is how I always treated advice. And it's like, no, man, your kid, you don't know what your kid's going to do. You know what you're going to do every single day? No, you don't know. So don't put that expectation on a baby. That's not going to turn out well.
That's very true, man.
What's like in the realm of parenting advice? What's like a parenting advice thing that was like, oh man, this was really helpful to learn about or to hear from someone?
I would say early on, like, especially like when I was still active duty stuff, was stock up on diapers, man. It's incredible how many of those things you go through fast, from a logistical standpoint. Yeah. And then the other part of that is like, you sort of have to get used to being team midnight. You're gonna have lots of early nights and stuff like that. And I think a lot of it too is like as they grow, you sort of have to let them make the decisions. And if it is a wrong one, you have to help them see the lesson in that. So don't really, hold them accountable. But at the same time, there's always a lesson to be learned. And everybody makes a mistake. Every kid.
Yeah, I remember the first time of going to change a baby's diaper and like taking the wet diaper off, having the other diaper, open, ready to go to like slide in. Yeah. And as you take off one diaper, they pee into the diaper you already had there, or they poop into it because like the cold air hits them. And then you're like, oh, I did not plan for this. So then you're trying to like somehow manage the chaos with one hand and reach for another diaper with the other hand and not get peed on or pooped on all at the same time. It's great.
Yeah, that's true, man. It's always it's hard not to be in a line of fire when you're changing the diaper, So.
Well, because you have so much confidence, you're like, oh, surely they're not going to pee on me this time, and it's always how it works.
Always, brother.
What phase of life is your daughter in? If she's 9, like, was she in? Like, does she do any extracurricular activities, anything like that?
Yeah, she plays basketball and volleyball. We're sort of getting her feet wet with that a little bit. And honestly, she's a phenomenal artist. You know,
Yeah,
she can draw things that it just blows my mind, man. I'm like, did you trace that? And like, she actually drew it. You know,
that's
and then
cool.
she wants to write a book, believe it or not, man. And we're sort of venturing how we're gonna do that and stuff like that
Yeah.
at such a young age. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a thing. Children write children's books. It's a process. I mean, you wrote a book, so you should know what you're doing, right? That's how this should work out, right?
Yeah, to be honest, man, I still probably read on a fifth grade level, so hers will sound better than mine, man. So yeah, yeah,
You'll be sitting there being like, you'll need a thesaurus for your daughter's children's book.
yeah, dude, 100%. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's I have horrible drawing skills. Like I am the worst, like with a pen, with anything with handwriting. Like if you need a ransom note, I that's what my handwriting looks like. You know, it's like bad, like that. And both of I have two daughters and a son. So it goes daughter who's 10, daughter who's 8, and son who's 4. And like I think my son is the only one who I'm better at drawing than now. Like my daughters are both completely excelled, completely passed by me in that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I told my wife the other day, I was like, she must get it from her, man, because like she's so smart, and
Yeah.
it's crazy, like with I don't know technology, all these different things these days, and how they learn,
Yeah.
with iPads and all that stuff, man. It's just incredible how much more she knows at her age than I did at that age.
Yeah.
It's eye opening. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many apps now that like, yeah, like Procreate is one in which like you can draw, you can add layers, and you can start a new. And it's so like, there's like no barriers with it. Like right now, like if I wanted to draw and I wanted like different colors, different brushes, I got to figure out how to get the money for that, pay for all that. And then as opposed to like, hey, I spent, is it $10 for that? It's like nothing. And then you get access to all this creativity that is just freaking amazing.
Yeah, and I would say with that, I was taught at a younger, so back in I don't know, probably my junior senior year, I actually I went to a basketball camp, man, and there was this coach. He was from like Lenore Ryan up the road, and this guy was older, man. I swear to God, he would get there and he would shoot like 100 free throws, right, and
Yeah.
and he wouldn't miss. That was his whole thing, and the
Yeah.
whole lesson which I get now is like he's trying to teach us key to success in life and anything is repetition, and
Yeah.
so I try to tell my daughter with those two words, repetition and perseverance, then you can go anywhere in the world.
Hmm. Yep. I coach my middle child's soccer team, and so it's a bunch of like 8-year-olds running around on a field. And like now, as a 38-year-old, like I see all the lanes, I see all the passes you can make. And I played soccer in high school a little bit, but I still like my brain couldn't see what was ahead of me. I just reacted because you're an athlete on the field or whatever. And like now, as a grown up, I'm like, why can't my body have the physical ability to actually play? Because now I get it. Now I
Yeah.
understand how
Oh
this
yeah,
game
yeah,
works.
yeah, yeah, man. I'm getting older, man. I go to bed sore and wake up crunchy, as they say. So I know the feeling, man. So yeah,
Dude, it sucks. It's I've switched out like if I go to a concert, I'm now like, can I sit down at this concert? Because if I can sit down, if I can sit down at this, I'm there. But if I have to stand for 3 hours on cement, I don't know anymore, guys.
I've had that same exact inner dialogue, man. Yeah, that same exact question.
So yeah, that's why it's luckily most of the bands I listen to are also getting older like I am, so they know their audience needs to sit down at their shows. So they're trying to accommodate for us, and I really appreciate that.
Heck yeah. I guess fans age with the musicians as well.
They do, right? But no, it's true though, man. Like whenever I remember, yeah, playing basketball, soccer as a kid, and yeah, the coaches are like, "Hey, do this 100 times. Like, do practice this, get into the rhythm, know yourself in this." And I was just like, I don't want to do this 5 times. And now, yeah, now as an adult, I'm like, dude, I totally get it. This is like the best lesson you could teach them.
Oh yeah, and I think that dads too were creatures of habits. I like to tell people, like, my wife is the type of person where she could do things once or twice and she's got it. Where
Hmm.
I need that hands-on, that repetition, that muscle memory, and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I had one guy who I had on here once told me like one thing he always tells his kids is like, hey, the first time will always be the worst time because you don't know what you're doing and you're figuring it out. And that one I still struggle with because I do like if I'm the cook in our family, I do all the cooking and all that. And if I make the recipe bad the first time, I'm like, oh, should I come back to this recipe? And it's like, yeah, it's the first time you'd ever done it. Why would you expect it to be perfect or good, like or like really good? Like you've never done it before. Just you'll be better next time. Just trust that.
100%. Yeah, and the other day, man, like that was the first time. This well within the last year, I'll say that.
Yeah.
We're going down the road, man, and she's asking me sort of about friendship, and what she was asking in a way was like who to let in your circle, right? And
Mm-hmm.
she's getting that 9 to 10 where like friendship
Yeah.
is, there's kids I've been friends with my whole life since I was 10, but I told her, driving by this bank, man, the only analogy I could really compare to it was like, I'd rather have 4 quarters over 100 pennies, right? And she's
Yeah.
like, what do you mean, Dad? I was like, well, if you go on let's say you have $1, right? You go get change. I was like, are you going to ask for 4 quarters or 100 pennies? And she didn't answer. And before she could answer, I said, 4 quarters. And she's like, why, Dad? I was like, well, you can, they're more accountable, right? And they hold you accountable. Like they're not going to fall out of your pocket by the time you get to your car. They're always going to be for this ride called life, And I
Yeah.
think she got it, man. So I'm big on metaphors and teaching and stuff
Yeah,
like
of
that. But
course.
yeah,
Nice. Well, it's really hard also because, like, and living in an age of social media, like, I remember being in my early 20s and being like, oh man, how many friends can I have on this app? How
yeah,
many friends can I have on this? And now at 38, I'm like, can I even find like 3 people that I can consistently hang out with that are like the same age and phase of life of me? Like, that'd be great.
yeah. It's difficult, man. And I will
Mm,
say though, like with social media now, we're all so connected, right? And the beauty of one of the good things with social media is that, there's friends in like let's say in Europe or something like that that I haven't
hmm.
talked to in years. And I could just shoot them a message. Next thing you know, have a FaceTime or something like that. So
Yeah, man.
it's good. Growing up, we didn't have that, right? It was like
Nope.
I remember the old rotary phones you'd go and it was a big thing to even have a cordless
Yeah.
phone. So,
Oh, dude.
yeah.
Yeah, and getting in trouble if you didn't put it back on, like the
Oh
charging
yeah,
base,
yeah. With
and
charge,
then
yeah.
your parents are screaming at you like, "Who didn't
Oh
do
yeah,
this?" And you're like, I think that was me. I think that was
yeah.
me."
Oh yeah.
That's cool. You served, right? You were active military for a while. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was a special missions aviator, and the two airframes I flew on was the AC-130 gunship, and then as well as the Pave Hawk, the rescue helicopters.
Cool. So I would assume then that like I feel like people who are military have friends kind of everywhere. So you probably do have friends, I'm sure, in different countries, different areas of the
Oh yeah,
country as well.
100%. Yeah, yeah. Different countries. Just, some that are still in, so they're getting to that
Hmm.
point where they are about to retire themselves. So it's good to see them finally hit that button and fly off in the sunset, as they say. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm assuming you traveled quite a bit. Do you have any desire for your daughter to make sure to see the world and travel in some sense?
I do, in hindsight, I would want her to travel the world to do something that's she really wants to do. What
Yeah.
that is, I don't know yet. But basically,
Yeah.
whatever her occupation or what's going to make her happy is what I want her to chase that dream. Wherever it ends up is where it ends up. So
Yeah. Totally get that. I think whenever I was a kid, I'm the youngest of three. So if we traveled, it was within like an 8 mile or 8 hour drive or something like that,
oh yeah,
And like
yeah,
the thought of, my wife and I are already trying to figure out, like, whenever we've traveled internationally, it's been really cool to like just be like, oh man, this is how the rest of the world is. It's not just the
yeah.
circle that I have. So already in our heads, we're like, oh man, if we can ever figure out how to get our kids to like, if we can ever figure out to like vacation or do an overseas vacation, we're like, oh, that'd be cool because selfishly, because we know how much we learn from that experience and we hope to teach our kids that as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I think there's some beautiful places to see. There's some bad, right? I've met great
Very much
people
so.
overseas. I met bad, and I think it all evens out.
It does. It does. What is your day job or what is your current like 9 to 5?
Yeah, no problem. So right now I do the flight simulators here at Cannon Air Force Base in New Mexico. So but
Yeah.
basically like I'll set up scenarios like the weather, the emergency procedures, the threats, etc. And I do that for the AC-130 gunship as well as the MC-130s and the U-28s.
Dude, that's fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. I get to I tell people I get to play a multi-million-dollar video game that's
You
virtual
do?
reality that moves. Yeah, so it's pretty fun, man.
That's cool. How long have you lived in New Mexico for?
So I was here the first time from 2010 to call it 2015. That's when I flew in
Mhm.
the AC-130H model gunship as well as the Whiskey there for a little bit, and then I
Mhm.
went to the combat search and rescue, the Jolly Green helicopters out at 41st out in Moody. Did that for
Mhm.
4 or 5 years, then came back in I think it was 2019, 2020 to do my sunset tour here, and I retired December of 21 out of a Cannon here.
Nice. Congrats on retirement.
Thank you, I appreciate it, man. I can't believe it's almost been 5 years, bro. Now I think about
Dude,
that
right?
number. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is genuinely like surreal to me to be older and be like, we moved from Nashville to Colorado back in 2024. And whenever we looked up, like, oh man, how long have we lived in Nashville for? We know we went to college here, all that. And we're like, we lived here for 18 years. And I'm like, wait, are you serious? We were here for like, because you just look up and you're like, oh, it's been 5 years. It's been 10 years. My kid's 9. And you're like, dude, that's not, come on. I'm not that old, right? That can't be
Yeah,
possible.
man. I'd say I feel old though a little bit, but it's, every day, man, it's a blessing to still be vertical. I tell people.
Yeah, right, man. Yeah. What made you want to like fly planes or get into Air Force or get into that realm of like military service specifically?
Yeah, that's an awesome question, man. And so my first fixed wing flight, I'll say fixed wing, was when I joined the Air Force, was July 18th of 2000 to from Charlotte, North Carolina to San
Hmm.
Antonio, Texas. And before that, when I was in third grade, man, I had a helicopter ride, one of those tourist type things
Yeah,
in somewhere near Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, that area, Ober
dude.
Gatlinburg and all that.
Yep, know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah, man. And one of my best friends growing up, her dad took us on it, we knew at that point, I think that the aviation in some way, shape, or form would have a big part in my life.
Cool.
And the first 10 years in my career, I wasn't a gunner yet or a special missions aviator, and I was actually at home at a pizza parlor, man. And I look out and I see the same cracks. I'm on leave at this point, same cracks in the road, and I was like, man, those cracks have been there my whole life, man. Like I want to see the world. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
leave cracks. I want to leave craters.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
always telling people like do what you really truly desire and what you want to do. Like die living. And like I
Yeah. Yeah.
always say, there's no U-Haul behind a hearse, man. So if you have a bucket list, make sure you check those boxes.
Hmm.
And once, I have a funny story about my first AC-130 flight ever, man. It went so bad that when the instructor said something to the effect of like, you're the reason they have to brief seatbelts on airliners and stuff like that.
Oof.
And
Yeah.
so we're getting to the end of this flight, and he sees me licking my wounds, feeling sorry for myself, all that dumb stuff, right? And like he's like, "Hey, what's the most important word in the dictionary?" I was like, "Man, I have no idea." And he's like, "Perseverance." He's like, "I want you to think about that, what that word means to you, and come back next flight ready to fight, man." And we actually got to shoot the next flight, and the first time that 105 millimeter went off and recoiled up to 49 inches, I was like, "Man, I want to do this for the rest of my life." And the whole motto, or I guess the mission statement behind the AC-130 gunship is to provide those close air support for those unconventional forces, your SEALs, your Rangers, your Green Berets. And as far as being a dad goes, like I looked at those letters 100 times in the squadron, and there's one particularly like I looked at a lot different the older I got, and it's a Ranger holding his baby girl. And he
Hmm.
thanks the gunship and the squadron for that close air support. He was able to go home and see his baby girl, and
Yeah.
that was my why all those years, man. And that was
Yeah.
when you lose that identity when you get out, that's a hard pill to
Yeah,
swallow.
man. Yeah. If I can ask, how do you feel like, where are you mentally with that? Like I mean, you're retired from active duty. You're in the next phase of your life. How do you feel like you're handling that currently?
I think a lot better than I was, to be honest with you. I
Yeah,
had
that
to
makes
get help
sense.
there. Yeah, and I did so my last year in the Air Force, man, I'd went to the rescue helicopters, had a really nasty casevac, and then I came back to gunships, and I lost a lung. All this stuff was going on literally my
Dude.
last year in the Air Force. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
paralyzed hemodiaphragm and all that. And I was what was, to be honest with you, a weekend drinking habit turned into at least a pint a night. With sleeping
Yeah.
pills, all the addiction, all that stuff that comes with that. And my wife basically gave me the ultimatum of like,
Hmm.
it's either the bottle or your family. And I chose
Yeah.
my family by the grace of God.
Yeah.
Which in turn I started getting prolonged exposure to therapy, and part of that process is when you're talking to a psychiatrist, you start out writing your story over and over and over, and to the point where you can get comfortable being uncomfortable just talking about it, sort of like we're doing now, just conversing, right? And
Yeah.
and I didn't want to do meds at the time, and the psychiatrist was like, "You should tell your story over and over." And I said no like 100 times, man. And once I got out, man, that dust settled, I was like, you know what? Maybe she's right. Maybe I can pay it forward. And we talk about the 22 a day every day and mental health and stuff like that, right? Like
Hmm.
what am I doing to make a difference? And I was like, I'm gonna get this book out there, and if one person gets help, that's a
Yeah.
blessing. That's a win for the community.
Yeah. How, if I can ask, how long, how's sobriety going, or how long? I'm assuming you're sober if you gave up the
Yeah,
bottle.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sober now, and then yeah, it's been was it February 28th? It was a Monday of 22, I believe. Was
Yeah.
that time, and there was twice in 23 years where I fell off the wagon
Sure.
and then
Yeah,
got
man.
back on sobriety, and that's to be honest with you, that happened, and that's it. When
Yeah.
you break a promise to yourself and to God, man, that hurts worse. But in a way, it sort of you know forced that concrete of just like, hey, I'm gonna quit drinking.
Yeah.
So it gave me something to really have the desire and the willpower and that
Yeah.
perseverance, right, to get through it. So
Yeah, man. Well, I think like whenever I think about getting sober and sobriety, it's I think what you're really retraining yourself on the most is like you searching for a new coping mechanism. Like there's a reason you drank. There's a reason why you felt the need to drink a pint every night. And now you're suddenly saying you can't be this person anymore. And your brain is going to be like, cool, so where's my release come from? Like where how do I still want to I still need something. So what am I going to do? So it is to find your new way to reset yourself and to, end your day in a way where you like kind of set yourself apart from whatever your day to day life was and kind of like recenter in some way. I think it's easy to assume alcohol, drugs of some sort will help you do that until you realize, no, it's ruining you.
Yeah, yeah, and going cold turkey is a very hard thing to do, and I
Yeah.
thought about it, man, because people would always ask, why can't you have 2 or 3 and be social? And I
Nope.
think in this world, I was never a guy that could all or nothing, right? Is what I'm getting at. Like
Yeah.
I could
Yeah,
never
man.
have 2 or 3, and what I would do is like binge drink, man. And if you've ever had that level of alcoholism where you wake up with the shakes and all that, like it's a vicious
Dude.
cycle you're in, man.
Yeah.
It's hard, so hard to get out, but I would always wake up and be like the two questions, but who do I owe money to and who do I need to apologize to? And I got
Yeah.
sick of that life, man, that feeling and just hung over every day,
Yeah. Yeah. It is like I think that's a pretty common thing with it is people will be like, oh, you can just have a drink, right? And you're like, no, I'm an alcoholic. If I
Yeah,
didn't, if I knew how to do this casually, I wouldn't be here.
yeah, like I went out. This wasn't no, not so distant past, but I
Yeah.
went. We were eating, and there was this lady at the casino, and she's like, "Hey, is it hard for you to naturally we're eating beside the bar? You
Of
ever take
course. Yeah.
15 feet? Yeah." And she's like, "Hey, is it hard?" I'm like, "Man, every day it's hard. Like
Yeah.
every day's a struggle, But there's a decision I have to make for my family every day, and to
Yeah.
to choose to stay sober, And it's a blessing when you finally get that.
Yep. Yep. There's a Jason Isbell's like Americana musician, and one of his songs about alcoholism is "It gets easier, but it doesn't get easy." And I feel like that's probably like the best. Like it's easier to understand how to choose your family, choose yourself, to not choose the drink. That doesn't mean
Oh
it's
yeah.
easy though.
Yeah, it's so hard, bro. I tell people go turkey is one of the hardest things you could do.
Yeah. And realistically, like, thanks for saying that you fell off the wagon because that is part of the journey. Is you do get you it is such a daily decision to not drink. It is such a daily decision to choose your family that there are moments where, hey, you don't choose them, and then you go, shit, and then you reset, you redo it, and it's a journey, man, and it's never just say, hey, I stopped drinking and I'm done forever. It's like, no, man, the second you think that is the second you pick up a drink because you're overconfident.
Yeah, yeah, and to be honest, that when it happens, it starts out with a little lie I would tell myself, like,
Yeah,
you can have 2 or 3, it's gonna be okay, like
yep,
it's not hard drugs or something like that.
yeah,
What that BS I would tell myself, next thing you know, I'm plastered.
yep. Yep. Or it's like I feel like the lie I have to avoid is the I'm not as bad as like. Well, if I only get a little drunk tonight, I'm not as bad as the guy who drank 3 bottles of blah blah blah. And I'm like, and it's like you're still not living in your integrity. You're still not who you know
Yeah,
you can be. So,
yeah,
but
100%.
what have you found to like fill your time, help you reset? I mean, therapy I know is a huge part of a lot of this. What have you found to like fill your time, or how do you feel like you reconnect with yourself? Or since you aren't drinking, what are you doing instead?
Yeah, yeah, still doing some writing.
Yeah,
When I first started that journey, man, every time I would get that urge, that crave, like I started putting words to paper, and a lot of
that's
times
cool.
it didn't even make sense what I would write
Yeah,
down,
yeah,
man. I
yeah,
remember waking up in the morning and having this Charlotte's Web of emotional words I threw on paper and trying to make
yeah.
sense of that and 2 decades of war, you name it, man. But
Hmm.
when it all comes together and you actually got a flow of a story, it's a beautiful process, man.
Yeah, yeah. It's messy though, man. I think we live in a world in which we see the finished product constantly. And you might read someone's book and you don't know the 6 months of writing, the 2 months of drafting and all that it took to get. All you see is the finished product. And like, yeah, man, the first time you do something, an editor is a great thing because
Yeah.
it helps you organize and like find the point you're trying to make this entire time.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's been overwhelming, man. Is like you see this common struggle between veterans and first responders, that loss of identity and the alcohol, and it's been overwhelming with the texts and emails and you name it. I've heard it, man, even reviews. Like where people I served and flew with had the same exact loss of identity, that struggle, and
Yeah.
they chose to get help for that, and that's a blessing, man.
Yeah, that is. I hate that you had to have the moment where your wife looked at you and said, "You choose us or you choose the bottle." I am grateful that you were able to choose your family and not the bottle.
100%. Yeah, that's the best decision I ever made, man. And
Yeah.
I thought about all the time and the alcohol's robbed from me, like,
Hmm.
because all these years I was on all these deployments and stuff, so I'm already losing that time with my family,
Yeah.
right? And then to get back and to time travel being drunk, like,
Yeah,
and to
man.
miss out on more time, right? That's a
Yeah.
sad thing.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, it seems from my friends who have gotten sober and everything, it seems like their family is what they start with. Is they're like, hey, I need to be sober for my family. And as they get into it, they then change to like, I actually need to be sober for myself. Because
Oh yeah.
it's not just I'm also missing out on all these moments. I'm all like, and that shift I feel like helps with staying sober is realizing like, hey, you're doing this for yourself. You're not just doing it for your loved ones. Like you yourself also deserve to be present for your family and your moment with your family.
Yeah, and you look at what is the number one. I hope this is right. Don't quote me on it,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
number one killer of men is like, was it heart disease or heart attacks now? And you
Yeah.
think every time you drink a drink, you're probably digging that grave a little bit.
Yep. Yep. And like, I mean, personally, I want to be around for my family, so I'd rather
Yeah,
not. I'm already
yeah,
digging the hole by existing. This not speed up that shoveling. You know?
yeah. I feel that, man. It's and when you finally get it, man, it's awesome. You feel better mentally, physically, and I
Yeah.
get to be the best dad I could be. Somebody
Hmm.
asked me the other day, man, like, what's the mission now? And who they're like, basically, if you get to fly any aircraft, and then what's the mission? Who's beside you as a co-pilot? I was like, the mission now is being the best dad I could be and best husband I
Yeah.
could be, and my
Yeah.
wife is the co-pilot because she's on this mission with me.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm glad I think that's a beautiful thing about family is I completely can understand your identity probably was, hey, I'm in active service, I'm military, I'm a plane, I fly, and then you retire, and then you're like, well, who the hell am I now? So if like you're able to root yourself in your family as your identity, I only see that being rewarding and something you're like, hell yeah, I figured this out.
Yeah, yeah, and it's when you start getting those exciting moments in the calm, right? And realizing to see your kid grow and the lessons she's learned from your
Yeah.
teachings or whatnot, it's awesome sight to see, man.
Yeah. It is. It is. And I feel like around 9 or 10 is whenever you realize your kid's actually been listening this whole time.
Oh
And,
yeah, yeah,
and it's
yeah.
great.
Kids are so honest, bro. I tell people,
Yeah.
kids are the most honest people in the world. Like, there's funny moments with that, and there's some that are just heart wrenching too with that.
Hmm.
Like,
Yep. Yep.
yeah,
I think my wife travels for work pretty regularly, and she asked like my middle child, almost like half joking, like, "Oh, do you feel like you know me or daddy more?" And she was like, "Well, daddy, because he's around more." And she was like,
my crap. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, man.
"Okay."
Yeah, yeah.
That's when
Oh
you
yeah.
that's when you learn like, okay, don't ask questions you don't want to know the answers to. Good to know.
Oh yeah, yeah, man. It's like I said, they're so honest, but so fun to be a dad.
It is. It is. Tell me more about your book or like what made you want to write it. I know you kind of already hinted at like some energy of like, hey, if this helps one person not feel alone, then this entire thing is worth it. So tell me about your book. What made you want to write it? All that good stuff.
Yeah, no problem, man. So it starts out in rugged Appalachia there in Sylva, North Carolina. Small town, and it's a place where the sense of community is strong, and it's one of the I look at the few places still left in the world where a handshake is as good as a contract, as cliche as that sounds. And
Mm-hmm. Yep.
everybody had everybody's back, and all that sort of stuff, and sort of the roots part of my story, the roots and wings. The roots being that this sort of this moral compass that was molded by my family growing up, and the lessons I've learned, and all kinds of stuff that are sort of Appalachian specific, but still at the end of the day, it's good to know where you come from, but it's more important to me, like where I'm going,
Mm-hmm.
being the wings part. And that's what the Air Force definitely gave me, the wings to see the world and, to have all these different experiences, and basically I realized at a young age, man, that like was it Marcus Aurelius said, what we do in life echoes in eternity, man. So,
Mm-hmm.
you start dying the moment you're born. So I wanted to get out and make a living and die living.
Nice. That's awesome. What I know you said that like, or you just said that you did a lot of therapy for kind of relearning your identity and everything. Was it hard for you to admit that you needed therapy? Or was it kind of like once you decided to get sober, you're like, hey, this is how you do it. This is the path that I need to do to get to reach this goal.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be honest. I went in that office with a chip on my shoulder, bro. Like,
Yeah.
I remember being like, "What does this lady know about this and that?" And
Hmm.
USOCOM has like basically this thing called preservation of the force and family. And in each squadron, you get a psychologist. You have a a physical trainer and a physical
Mm-hmm.
therapist. Usually it's per
Yeah.
each unit, you know. And so I saw her, you know, and it's a civilian lady, and I was like, what does she know about this and that? And she
Yeah.
gave me that cliche metaphor of like, hey, well, you wouldn't, you know, ask your dentist to fix your car, would you? And you know, me being a smart aleck, what if my dentist fix cars? Something like that, you know.
You don't know my dentist. He's very handy.
So there was a very rough start, man.
Yeah.
But she made a lot of sense in the end, man. And I'm so thankful for her. And
Yeah.
you know, she's for honestly the first time I told the story, I cried, she cried, and that's
Yeah.
what she's like. You should tell this to pay it forward, you know.
Yeah. 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 Um, I think we're the culmination of like whatever you saw as a kid as being normal and whatever you became. So like you do have to unpack or unlearn some stuff from your childhood in order to move forward, to grow and to learn other stuff. And a therapist or a counselor, someone who goes like, hey, here's a pattern I see. Do you know that this is a pattern? And like, who the hell is that self-aware to notice all their patterns? No one is.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, she did a lot. She tied a lot of things together for him. It's crazy how she did it, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
like little things like dude, it got so bad, man, where I would time myself getting to work. As stupid as that sounds, as
Yeah.
weird as that sounds, I would do stuff like that, and then I'd freak out in a car wash, man. Walmart would
Yeah.
always drive me crazy. You know, these type of situations where I'd freak out a little bit, man.
Yeah.
But she made sense of all that and why that was happening. You know.
Yeah, I think most of my freakouts, most of my like whenever I get more harsh is because there's some need that I don't know how to express that I don't trust is going to get met.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to have the ability to step back and realize that of like, why am I at the gas pump waiting for someone to pump their gas faster and I'm pissed at them that they don't know how to do this faster? And it's like, what, who cares? Like, calm down, man. Like that
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Like it'll be fine.
Dude, I've had that same dialogue with myself, man. Like little things like, like going to the gas station or a grocery store, right? And you have a handful of groceries and you're trying to pay as fast as you can because the person
Yeah.
behind you, you think, weird stuff like that, man. She made a
Yeah.
lot of sense of, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Where I assume that like, yeah, that's honestly a great example. Is like, oh man, I see a line of 3 people. I better have my card ready, have my stuff ready, be ready to go. And it's like, yeah, it's helpful. It's not a bad thing to do, but like, I am attributing a hell of a lot more value to this than I need to.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that process taught me too is like to live in the moment, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's things that you can't change, man, that's happened, right? And you could change what's going to happen, right? But at the same
Yeah,
time, just live and feel that moment, you know?
yeah, yeah. As far as like writing a book, did you ever think you'd be an author? Like, did it take you a little bit to like be like to grow into that identity of like, oh, hey, Anthony, you're actually an author. You can write a book. Like, this is something you can do. How was it realizing that like you have that in you?
It was I still don't believe it, to be honest with you. Like the other
Yeah.
day, dude, the other day, I had a gunner friend I used to fly with. He's like Anthony's like, do you realize that you published a book, man? Like you have a published book.
Yeah.
Like how good that is. I was like, man, like honestly, like it all happened so fast, you know. And I was like, I haven't really take a second to realize that and accept that, you know. And but
Yeah.
it is probably one of the smartest things I've ever done for myself, you know, and to help me see this common struggle between these, these uncommon or these common men and women doing these very uncommon things, you know, whether it's
Yeah.
military, first responder, you name it, that you realize that everybody has that same struggle to an extent, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Did therapy kind of already get you in the mode of writing down your thoughts, writing down your story? So whenever it came time to write the book, you had some like muscle memory to work off of like, okay, here's what I want to say. Here's what I want to write about.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Like they start out, what I liked about prolonged exposure is like you start out writing it over and over and over, right? And then you get to the
Mm-hmm.
point where you're talking, and then they time you saying it. Like you get to that
Okay.
point where they time you saying it, and then and there's different apps they would have too for you to do at night and stuff like that. But yeah, it would just you get so comfortable talking about the trauma. They peel back that onion to that root cause of that, and then
Yeah.
you expose it. Then you talk about it to where it's not normalized, but you can handle it. You can deal with it. You
Yeah.
can talk about it. You can understand it.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I would say from pen to pad to book in hand, it is a relatively short read, but was
Yeah.
about 7 months or so. You know, it was crazy
Cool.
how it all came to be. So
Yeah. I think like, I can't think of the name of the type of therapy, like the rapid eye movement desensitization. I can't think of the acronym for that.
it's like REM or something.
Yeah, REMD,
Yeah,
whatever. I'm not a therapist. I have aunts who are therapists, and they've told me that like what you do with that is basically you learn how to be comfortable with the situation so that your nervous system doesn't react to it. So you kind of enter into the space but like it's not like, but like your nervous system isn't like fight or flight as much. So then you hopefully become objective about what you went through. So then you can talk about it, deal with it, handle it. But like until you do that work, then every time you enter into like, hey, let's talk about this moment. And you're like, nope, running away. I'm out. See you guys later
Yeah,
every time.
that is the best I've ever heard that explained, Devin. Honestly, I'm glad you said that because that's exactly the process, you know. Man,
Don't
yeah,
give me
thank
too
you.
much. Don't give me too much credit. Don't give me too much credit.
But yeah, that's awesome, you know, about that and how that's how it is, man. That's what it is,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially when you're a dad, like you having trauma, you having I'm assuming some form of PTSD to deal with. Whenever you're going through day-to-day life, your nervous system literally is saying, you might die here. There's a threat here. How do I handle this? And like that's that's I don't ever make the best decisions whenever I'm in that mode.
I mean,
Realizing how to make your brain be like, hey man, you're basically trying to figure out to tell yourself, hey, you're safe. Like you got this, you're good. And it's a lot of work sometimes to get to allow yourself to trust that you are safe in an environment.
yeah, and I think I was able to tie flying to it. We call it an EP mantra, right? Like an acronym, right? We're always saying like aviate, navigate, communicate. Those three things are
Okay.
like be an athlete today. You know, and I like to break it down to like compare it to life, like aviate. You know, like no matter what you're doing, first thing is to realize, hey, you're still flying. Maintain aircraft control. Keep aviating. You know, take a second, right, and then navigate. It's good to know, okay, this happened, but where am I going to end up? Where am I going? You know, and then communicate is the part where like you talk to a therapist, you talk to your friends, you let people like, hey, no, like something's not right now. You know,
Yeah.
communicate that. So those three words: aviate, navigate, communicate. And my favorite metaphor ever though is what Henry Ford said, like, you know, life, you're gonna have struggles, you know, you're gonna have all these different things, you're gonna have adversity, right? He's like, remember, an aircraft takes off against the wind, not with it. So that's
Cool.
always
Yeah.
really hit
Yeah.
home for the perseverance part of that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's easy to when things don't go your way. I think a mature or healthy version of myself goes, okay, cool, didn't go how I still want to end up at this goal. How do I get there now? I just hit a roadblock. How do I do? How do I get there? But a younger version of myself would have been like, Mup, hit a roadblock. I'm not meant to do this. And it's like, well, come on, man. Like you don't know that. Like everyone's gonna have problems. No one starts off with like a perfect easy road. Or if they do, I don't know of it.
Yeah, and if we did, right, if life was, you know, sunny and 75 every day, like what kind of life would that be? There's no scars, there's no roadmap to your journey, man. And that's the beauty of life, man. Is getting over those storms.
Yeah, it is. And it's such a weird thing because you don't want to like, I think who you are whenever you don't get your way is a fascinating way to know who you are, to know a lot of different elements of your personality. But also, I don't want to have a lot of moments in which I don't like, in which I have to understand that. You know, I want to create a life in which it's pretty easy going. I can predict myself and everything. That's not how life works.
Yeah, and if it was predictable, like if I wrote a book about, you know, just a basic normal, like I said, sunny and 75 life, like who would want
Yeah.
to read it at the end of the day,
Yeah,
you know?
right. You got to have some
Yeah.
conflict, man. No,
Well,
no
oh yeah,
story without conflict. It's hard to want to read a story without conflict.
but 100%, that's right, Devin.
Before I start wrapping down everything, is there anything else from your book you want to make sure to highlight? Any other thing about it or anything like that? Just before I, wrap down, ask you the 5 questions, end out the episode.
Yeah, no problem. So I would say definitely that there's two main reasons I wrote it is for basically to show sort of the rest of America too, the civilians, right? Like this is
Yeah,
what goes on when you're sleeping, these type of things. And then
yeah,
as far as the mental health part of it, man, I always put a plug in here for like if you're in these uncommon jobs, whether it's military, first responder, like, you know, we're just finishing up 2 decades of war and there's a lot of stuff going on right now too, right? But like it's
hmm
okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to do
yeah,
nothing about it, man. So
yeah,
seek help and you'll be glad you did, you know?
dude, that's awesome. And like, I really believe in that. I really believe that like, having more people realize like, hey, if you're not okay, it's okay, and there's actually resources for you. People want to love you. People want to show you that like you're okay is something I will always want to promote, especially for men, especially for dads, because it is easy to believe lies. It's easy to believe something that isn't true and then make some really dumb decisions.
100%, dude.
Yeah, totally. So, how I end every episode is ask every guest series of 5 questions. They're pretty fun and lighthearted. First question is, did you have any backup names for your daughter? Like, did you have any names that you almost named her?
No, I didn't, and I have this exact moment in the book there, if I can, man.
Yeah,
So
please. Yeah.
my wife is Navajo, right, from the
Yeah.
Navajo Nation up the road here, And then, I'm Scotch Irish, and my grandfather's name was me happy and stuff like that. And I know the old Gaelic word for brown eyes or dark eyes is Sullivan, and I assumed that
Yeah.
our daughter would have dark eyes, so we named
Huh?
her Sullivan, man. So that's what I always wanted
Dude,
to stick with.
that
Yeah.
is awesome. I love that stuff. Like I love whenever you can realize like what a word means. I think names are really important. So that's freaking cool. And I love
Oh
learning
yeah,
that stuff. So dude, that's so cool. That's
that's
awesome.
awesome. Heck yeah, bro.
Okay, next question is, do you have a favorite like TV or movie dad? Or one that comes to mind whenever I ask that question?
Yeah, so I want to say Larry David, man, from Curb Your Enthusiasm, but I don't know if he has, but
He
I don't know if he has kids in the show, bro.
I
You know what I
don't
mean?
think
Like,
he doesn't, but
yeah,
he has some very curmudgeon dad energy that is hilarious in that show.
yeah. If you ever like the things that happen to him, like you realize, like, man, that's happened, right? Like you sit beside the guy in the airliner that has on like jorts on, like really short ones or something, like
Yeah,
just
yeah,
random
yeah.
stuff like that, man. Yeah,
That show I have to be in the right mindset for because it makes me so deeply uncomfortable because the entire time I just want to make Larry stop. You don't have to be this person. Just stop.
yeah. And I think he says the loud part out loud, right? Where he
He
like,
does.
yeah, like what we all have been thinking in those moments, like there's so many different scenarios that actually happen to us, right? And
Yeah.
he says what everybody wants to say, but he has I guess the courage and,
Yes.
the stones
He
to
can
say it, so
he can script
yeah,
the episode around it where he doesn't actually get punched in the face in real life because that's always my
yeah,
fear.
yeah, yeah.
Next question. Do you have a replacement curse word? Like instead of cursing, do you have a word you say instead, or are you still just saying the curse word around your kid?
Yeah, I try to say like freaking, every now and then I'll let the real deal slip, and it,
Yeah.
but it's cool that she knows not to say that, right? And to realize that to hold me accountable, it'd be like, hey, dad, like you
Yeah.
shouldn't say that. So it's awesome to see that moral choice she's making.
Yes.
Yeah.
Next question. What's like your favorite activity or like favorite thing to do with your kid?
I would say fishing, man. I remember the first time my daughter caught a trout, man. Just to see her eyes light up and stuff like that. But to fight the
Yeah,
fish a little bit, the trout, it was awesome, man.
dude, that's so cool. It's really cool whenever you have like an activity you've spent your entire life doing and then your kid does it like once or twice and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And that is very life giving.
Yeah, it's awesome to see them the joy in that moment.
Yes, definitely. Okay, next question or last question. What is your least favorite like kids show? Like what's your like whenever your kid wants to watch it or something like that, you're like, oh my gosh, this is awful. What am I doing with this show?
Dude, I actually learned to love Moana. I've seen
Yeah.
Moana like 100 times, bro. But it really is a good movie. But by the 150th time you've seen it, all right, man.
Yeah.
You know, so
I do. Well, also sometimes it's like, what is like, if you know you're going to have to watch the show a million times, then you're like, okay, maybe I do like this. Maybe the show isn't that bad after all.
yeah, yeah. And there's a lot of messages in Moana too that's really
Yeah.
good. But yeah, like I said, you looking back at it, like yeah, it was awesome to watch it and to see her learn from that a little bit, and then but at the same time, 150 times watching something, yeah, you get sort of all right.
Yeah. It's a
Next
bit
one.
much. Yep, pretty
Yeah.
much. And then last thing for you, Anthony, it's just moment for self-promotion. So like, how do we find your book? How do we follow you? Like all that good stuff.
Yeah, so if you just honestly just Google Moonchild by Anthony Dyer, you'll have it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever they sell books. And then my Instagram account, excuse me, is all lowercase Marco_Brolo 21. And then
Sweet.
lastly, my email, if you ever need me, I'll always respond. It's at anthonyp.dyer@gmail.com.
Nice. Well, hey, Anthony, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate you sharing your story. Thanks for taking some time to do a call with me, and I will catch you next time.
Thank you, Devin. I wouldn't miss this one for the world. Thank you, bro.
Perfect. I appreciate it, man. I'll see you next time. All right.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you so much for listening to the episode. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at the Imperfect Dads Podcast. And make sure to give us 5 stars wherever you listen to us. Music, editing, and production is all done by me. Make sure to tune in on Mondays and most Thursdays for new episodes. This podcast is part of the Never a Phase Network. Make sure to go to neverafphasenetwork.com to learn more about them.